If you have a complex history, one in which you had a challenging childhood, but nonetheless you have a desire to not only survive, but thrive, this episode's for you. In this episode, I share a rundown of my story, where I was, where I've been, and where I am now, and also go into why I'm releasing all of my books for free. Check it out. When do you start a story? Do I start at 8? Where, as a young boy, I had this distinct and confronting realization that not everyone's dad dealt drugs, and not everyone's stepfather was violently abusive. Do I start at 16, when I fled from home, believing it would be easier to survive off charity, government assistance, handouts, and part-time work to get through school and uni? Do I start at 23, when I met the first person to see through the brokenness of my past and into my soul? Or at 26, when that same person became pregnant, and I realized generational fear for the first time? Fear that I did not know how to break the cycle. Fear that I did not know how to not be or become my father. Or do I start with the end, right now, at 36, by spoiling the story, by saying that it is possible to survive and then thrive? That it is possible to not fall into the same toxic behaviors I was exposed to as a child, and to give my kids an upbringing that I wouldn't have thought possible. I decided to start with the summary, because what I want to talk about really is breaking the cycle of neglect, abuse, and addiction. An act that is inherently tied to the past. Healing is not linear, and up until very recently, I would relive my past daily. Thinking back, I used to look forward to seeing my dad, naively wanting to show him my latest accomplishment, wanting him to see me. Flash forward, and I find myself doused in embarrassment and shame that very same person, for once in his life, came to my school to celebrate my accomplishments, only to have my best friend next to me laugh, loudly asking, "Who let the bum in?" Not realizing that bum was, of course, my father. My mind wanders to the time when my father was remaking an old bike for me, a road bike, something that I would use daily to and from school. Useful, yes, but oh so meaningful and important because he was making it for me. But of course, anger and shame, those ever so corruptive feelings sink into my heart when I realize I've been let down again. You see, that bike that he was making for me, the one that he had promised, the one that he was working on, my father lent it to one of his friends. Really? To one of his addicts that he's desperately trying to sell to. That addict promised that he had the money at home, so my dad lent him the bike to go get it. My dad never got the money, and I never got that bike. These stories that I'm sharing may seem mundane, and they are relative to the horrors that I faced with his drugged-up customers and my stepfather. But it's these things that now seem to hold the most emotional weight. So that's the context. That is the past. So when I found out my partner and I were pregnant, I had a sudden and deep fear that I was going to do exactly to my children what my father did to me. How do you deal with fear? If you're not told, alcohol and drugs seem to soothe the pain. How do you deal with emotion? If you're not taught how to regulate, screaming and violence seems to soothe the pain. How do you deal with overwhelm or expectations that you can't meet? Withdrawing into the self and ignoring the world seems to soothe the pain. So with the baby on the way, I started falling into what I now realize was a dark night of the soul, something I've honestly only just recently come out of. As you can imagine, it's quite hard to even have the confidence to know where I should head, because who am I? My father's son, the person with those very same thoughts. So it is here in the story that I would ideally want to start planting the seeds of hope, right? But you already know the ending. I am here, and my kids are doing well, and I can comfortably say that the generational trauma and neglect has stopped with me. But how? How did I go from a scared little boy to the person you're listening to right now? I wish I could paint it on one thing: a friend, spirituality, a wise teacher, hitting rock bottom, attempting and surviving suicide, the loss of friends, finding new ones, my wife's love, my children's smiles. But no, it was not one thing, but everything and more. Ultimately, it was a sense of hope that got me through. I knew that it was possible for people like me, people in my situation, to break the cycle. It has happened before, and it can happen again. My suffering is unique to me, but it's within a broader context of similar suffering, and there are ways to navigate ourselves out of that box. Thus, I knew if I made the right choices and took the right actions, breaking the cycle would be possible for me. It is hope that got me through. It is the knowledge that it is possible to heal, grow, and break the cycle. It's the hardest thing I've ever done, and it's the hardest thing I continue to do. I want to end this little talk with a bit of advice a friend gave me. When my wife was pregnant, and after I explained all of this to them, they said, "It's okay, we all mess up our kids in our own way." Which is true. My kids, like me, will be a function of their genetics and their upbringing. But of course, I will hold them in mind, and I will make sure that I'm messing them up in a way that is with love and responsiveness to them and their needs, and the continual search to do a little bit better every day. The goal of parenting is to provide a soft landing into adulthood, and that is something I know how to give. And hope? Hope comes from the knowledge that healing is possible, that you can change if you're motivated enough to do so, and that the knowledge that you are not a victim of fate, forced to repeat the past, and that you can make different choices. Like just the other day, I bought my boy a new red bike for his birthday, and we ride together daily. It is possible to break the cycle. So, that was a speech, story, talk that I was going to give for Stories That Stir. You may have seen me promoting it on social media, but due to a variety of reasons, it had to be rescheduled and I was unable to attend. But I'd written that short story and I wanted to share it because I think there is value in it. I find that a lot of people reach out to me on social media or via email, and basically they share that by me sharing my story, my poetry, my fiction, my truth effectively online, that they are getting something from it. They are seeing themselves in it. They knowing that in the same way that I've found that other people's healing journeys has helped me, my process can help them, knowing that it is possible to heal, to grow, knowing that the thoughts, the feelings, the emotions, the challenges that they are facing, I have faced. It is a understanding that they are not alone in their pain, in their suffering, in their doubt, in their confusion, in their everything. This is why I share what I do. And it sort of brings me to the second part of what I wanted to talk about in this podcast episode. I have decided, as you have heard, in the little outros, the little call to actions of this podcast, the most recent couple, is that I am giving away my books for free. PDF copies. Basically, it's an email grab. You put your email in and I will send you a copy of all of my books. There are 17 out at the moment. And if this is a curiosity to you, click the link in the show notes and you'll be taken to the email grab, chuck your email in, and the email should auto come, in which, you get a copy of all my books. And I've always had this idea of giving away my stuff for free, but that has to be balanced against the realities of, making a living and making it appreciated. So I think this is a good trade, a good sign-up bonus to the emails. And I've always been, like I've said, sharing what I've put out there online for free, because I know that when I was in this state, when I moved out of home at 16, when I was struggling, knowing that there are other people in my position feeling what I'm feeling was literally life-saving. So I want that. I want that for you. If you are listening, if you've connected, if you've resonated with the stuff that I'm doing with my story, and not just my past, but, what I'm doing now and where I'm going, the online work, the content creation, the entrepreneurship, the thriving, the spirituality, all of the stuff that I'm moving into as well. If this helps you, I encourage you, grab the books, read them. But why? Why free? Well, I like I said, I left home early and I was poor, but I was driven. I wanted to know, and I would just absorb information, absorb podcasts, absorb videos, absorb my lessons at uni, at school, and, read a lot. But, unfortunately, there are paywalls, and even the paywall of a book, $20 for a book isn't, exorbitant now. But when I was living literally paycheck to paycheck, literally living off handouts, I remember going to a charity in which local businesses would give them their old food, out of date food. And I would go there and collect bags of this stuff that they would give out to other poor people like myself and take it home and eat it. That is, literally kept me going. That's what I took to my, year 11 and 12 for lunch, stale bread with, donated spam, eating for breakfast cereal that is past its use by date, doing how to cook classes, not because I didn't know how to cook, but because we got to eat the food afterwards. I'm sort of getting a bit teary here. This was my reality. And I knew that when there was information that helped, I latched onto it. And thankfully, I've gotten myself to a place where I'm comparatively comfortable. There's more that I want to do, and, more stuff to be released and more money to be made and all of this sort of stuff. But I am in no way in that situation anymore. And, as such, I have a depth of knowledge of what that was like, what it was like to, live in the house of a drug dealer, which was my father, and like this history of, parental neglect and abuse and addiction, all of these things, into survival, into thriving, into entrepreneurship, into spiritualism, into all of these things. So I want to give back. I want to give the, 16-year-old version of myself the resources that he would have loved to have, the insights, the reframes, the tools, the tips, the ideas, the concepts, the hope, the everything that I didn't have, that I wish I had, that I clawed together, so that if someone else is listening to this podcast right now, they're like, okay, I'll click through and I'll get it. If this is you, if you are in that sort of 16-year-old stage, the books I would suggest you consider reading are Under the Influence. It is the first book. It's Under the Influence, Reclaiming My Childhood. It is the book of the most embarrassing traumatic moments of my life. I suggest you read it, not because it is a tough read, but you might find some resonance. The things that I went through, you may be able to have a connection and a similar feeling. I get a lot of social media and email connections basically being like, I had a similar past. What you were feeling is what I'm feeling. And you've put, words to my thoughts that I sort of tangentially or barely knew that I was having, but it sort of helped me to heal. Start there. And if that sort of appeals to you, I would also consider you read the book, which is also a poem, Can't Quite Express. It is a sort of a newer retake, poetic sort of flow on the same sort of feelings that I was left with now, not now, at the time of writing, this feeling of not being able to express the inner mess and the duress. Get a bit of a flow there for you. I suggest you start there. If you are looking for more practical guides of how to improve and heal, how to get your shit together, I think there is 60 plus chapters. Each chapter can be read individually. It goes from, moving on from trauma, overcoming depression, defeating anxiety, all of these things, getting organized, finding meaning, and following your dreams. It is, the how to deal with the crap thoughts, how to grow, how to organize yourself, how to thrive. It covers everything, because I found that most self-help books that I was reading did one thing. It's like, here's how you deal with your shit thoughts. But it's like, okay, my life sucks too. How do I actually practically fix it? Oh, okay, I don't have goals. How do I get those goals? How do I find them? This book has it all. Check it out. How to get your shit together. And I would also suggest, if you're looking for practical guides of how to improve your mental state, mindfulness guidebook to the present moment. That will teach you how to meditate. And if writing is your thing, or if you find value in writing, or if you see the poetry and the other stuff that I'm doing and you're like, far out, there seems to be a therapeutic benefit, there is. I strongly suggest everybody writes. How to write evocative poetry will get you writing. You don't need to read any of these books. You just, you do you, and you'll get through. Trust me when I say this. But the act of expression and creation, is there. From there, you'll also see other books in that collection that I will send you, the 17 books. I've got a couple of fiction stuff. I've got some erotica stuff, that is 18 plus only. Don't read it unless you, that is a different deviation from the typical stuff that I talk about, but it is there because I believe that sex, sadness, and spirituality are the core components of, humanity, and I like to project my truth in every aspect, so that is there too. But the poetry books, for example, Poetry from a Dark Night of the Soul, or Augmented Realities, or Bound to the Wings of a Butterfly, all of these, A Requiem for What Could Have Been, Words on a Page, these are all poetry that I've written over the years that expresses a lot of this. And once again, if you resonate with my story, you will definitely find a lot of value in those poetry collections. So all of that is there for you for free. Just chuck the email in and I'll send it to you. And you don't even have to say subscribe to my email list. I would love you to if you did, but you don't have to. Why am I doing this? Well, I'm giving it away for free. Yes, I am not making money on those books, but in the book, there is a couple of call to actions. If you like the book and you can afford it, feel free to grab a copy. If you want to chuck a donation back and you're like, yeah, this really helped, small or big, it all, some people have, read something of mine ages ago and then, all of a sudden there's a, $100 donation in my account, and I'm just blown away because, you plant the seeds early and you help people, and the vast majority of people, you don't hear from them. Sometimes I get an email and it's glorious and it's like, hey, I read this thing from you ages ago. I just got one, who read, the poem book, Can't Quite Express, and they fully resonated with it. And it touches my soul. And, some people, they find themselves in a place of, financial, comfortability, for lack of a better expression, and they decided to grab a copy of the books or to throw a donation my way, or, if they want to work with me. I do offer one-on-one sessions, but this is more towards the entrepreneurs and the people that can afford it, for lack of a better expression. I went down the path of wanting to help people and, doing teaching and support work and this sort of stuff. But I know my personality and my sort of drive, and, I know my worth. I can't spend time one-on-one with everyone, unfortunately, but I do have options available to work with me one-on-one. I do have options available to do, voice text coaching. I do have things out there that you can do email stuff with me, and I do have a collection of books that you can get for free and my social media, and you can connect with me there as well. And I'm always open to connections down any of and all of these paths, depending on, where you find me, where you find yourself, and all of these things. If something that I've written or done online has resonated or moved with you, has made you feel something, let me know. I'm keen for it. It's more that, if people want that in-depth sort of mentoring, coaching, counseling, intuitive guidance work, I have to charge for my time. Because, that's the nature of reality. But I figure that I can find the intersection by offering people, my books for free. And hopefully in the future I can offer group workshops down the creative writing path, down the writing for healing path, down the getting your shit together path, down the entrepreneurial path, down the, intuitive guidance work. Like there are spaces and places and different price points which I'm going to be offering things, but I figure that the best way to help my past self would be to be like, hey, here is a bunch of resources. So like I said, that's what I'm offering. That's what is there. This is why. And my hope is that, if you are living, or if you have lived a similar sort of past, you find some resonance and some healing. Because you can feel alone, you can feel hopeless, you can feel pointless, and, complex PTSD and neglect and all of these things leave you unsure of who and what you are, or the point, or where you're heading. And it's only just recently that I've just started to discover really who I am, where I'm going, what I want to be doing and producing and being in this world. And, it's taking me, I'm 36, 37 now, and, that's 20 years of, searching. Well, more, because, bad stuff started happening when I was like 6. So, 30 years. I guess what I'm saying is if I can cut that time for you, or at least, not necessarily cut the time, because the time, healing takes time, and you will take time to heal depending on, you and yours and what's happened and who you are and what you do and all of that sort of stuff. So we're not pushing the speed of healing, but rather basically being like, I'm imagining myself the person who's walked the dark paths of the soul, holding the lantern saying, hey, this is the way, this is the path. You still have to take those steps. You still have to put that email in and get those books. You still have to read them. You still have to reach out and seek the therapy that works for you. You still have to book the counseling sessions. You still have to take the medicine if that's what is needed. You still have to meditate. You still have to do all of the work yourself. Fact. But maybe I can show you highlight some of the things that you could do to best suit you. So I say all of this to basically say, if you've resonated with my story, I see you. If you are, if you have dealt with that stuff in the past and you want some further guidance, reach out and potentially we can work together. I find myself working with now 6 to 7 figure entrepreneurs who have an interest in self-improvement, who have a interest in spiritualism, has an interest in personal development and coaching, and who have a complex history that wasn't, the norm. I find that, I'm living that lifestyle myself, and I act as the mirror. I see you and I reflect back to you, and I just offer some, guidance. It's like I'm the wise mirror, so to speak. It's like, hey, this is my story. If you resonate, if you connect, here's the books, here's the products. I've got some stuff coming in the pipeline that I'm going to release soon that you can grab. The coaching offerings, all of these things. There is stuff there. And like I said, if you read or connect or resonate with something, reach out to me on social media and tell me. It's one of the best things. Every time I open up and I get something like this, a response back, I'm like, yes, thank you. This is exactly it. This is exactly knowing that I'm on the right path, helping people. And like if you do end up grabbing a copy of the book, leave a review. It really does help. If you're listening to this podcast and it's resonating, leave a review. It helps. These small things, I'm not asking for much. An email in exchange for 17 books. And if you find that you grab a copy, leave a review. And if you're liking this podcast, leave a review as well. Tell people about it. Let's get this growing, because if I can help people to stop struggling in the way that I struggled, I think the world would be a better place. So, yeah, that's the crux of my story. That's the crux of my offerings. Click the links in the show notes to chuck your email in to grab a copy of all my books. And yeah, if you feel like you want to work with me, I'll chuck a link in there for the coaching too. Either way, I wish you well. May you be happy. May you be at peace. Have a great day.